And we're back.
We're back.
Yes, it's been a month or so. I don't know. I've been married, so I don't know what timeline it is, what the time is, or what the dates are, or whatever. I'm Antonia Okafor.
And I'm Nina Prevo.
And we are back with Trigger Warning 2A, where we talk about all things guns, gun laws, everything, and some pop culture as well. Yeah. We have to, because people like to make dumb statements about guns.
Yeah.
Eric Swalwell.
Eric Swalwell.
Yeah, Eric Swalwell. So we're going to go into it, Eric Swalwell. Eric Swalwell decided to make a public statement today. Actually, he makes a lot of public statements, to be honest, including his whole plan to nuke everybody who decides not to give their guns to the government.
Yeah, it's a very reasonable response to a private citizen talking about the Second Amendment.
Right. Unfortunately, we're Americans. Thankfully, we still are Americans and love the Second Amendment to the point where our guns, or just have reasonable common sense, if we'll use that phrase, respect for the Constitution. So seems like his campaign didn't do so well because of that. And had a big announcement today, which the gun community is very thankful for, even though I think a part of us kind of like the fact that we had one candidate that we could just completely obliterate.
Oh, yeah. And just troll to death online and all of that.
Yeah. So he has announced today that he is no longer going to be in the race.
Woo!
Yeah. CNN was doing fake news again and was like, yeah, he had traction. He no longer had traction, like as if he had traction in the first place. But yeah, he's bye-bye.
Which is really, it's a blessing. I was telling Antonia before we went live that of the Democrat candidates, he was the least qualified to be president of any of them up there. And that's really saying something, because that field is very rough. But, I mean, how many times did this guy just blatantly say he would violate the Constitution? Like, his whole platform was pretty much just to repeal the Second Amendment. Like, he didn't really talk about anything other than guns and how much he hated them.
He was a gun control. Like, I think actually that was his thing. Like, he was a gun control candidate. Which a part of me is kind of sad he's not there a little bit because of all the memes, the great memes that came. I mean, and speaking of memes, if you want to see great memes about Eric Swalwell, just go to empowered2a, empowered_2a on Instagram. Our interns had great award-winning memes about Eric Swalwell. Award-winning. Thank you, Lexi. Shout out to you, Lexi. Amazing. But unfortunately, other than that, we won't have the memes maker for that one, but we will at least have peace of mind that at least one candidate's not only about gun control. They all are all about gun control, though. Like, come on.
I know. I mean, realistically, none of them are good on it. But exactly. He was like, it was his mission to destroy the Second Amendment, and so I'm glad he's out. But part of me wonders if he was even taking himself seriously. I mean, everything he tweeted was just ridiculous. He got ratioed every single time. Like, I don't know if there's a single tweet that he sent out that wasn't immediately ratioed. And yeah, I feel like some of the stuff was so ridiculous that I just can't believe he was taking himself seriously. Like, didn't he say something like in the debates about, for years I've been changing diapers, and that's like it was somehow it was in his closing statement in the debate.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In the first debate.
I missed a lot of that.
So if anyone in the live chat has that quote at the ready, I would appreciate knowing exactly what he said. But he referenced changing diapers as a qualification for why he should be president. So that's why I don't even know if he was like a real candidate.
Oh, when you're talking about being a dad or something like that?
Yeah, he's like, I had to, I'll be able to clean up the same kind of mess in Congress. It was something stupid.
Who is this PR guy? Like, or even the interns? Does he have interns or had interns?
Or like, doesn't he have kids who are like teenagers?
Old enough? Oh, really?
Who or something?
Oh, you asked me. Okay.
Or old enough to be like, Dad. Maybe not. Yeah. Maybe he doesn't. But anyway, obviously Antonia and I were very happy to see that. I had been talking about how I hoped he would be the first one to drop out, and I'm so glad that he was.
Yeah.
So
even though so someone told me that there's actually technically like written on like records that there's actually almost 200 candidates. Wow. Technically, obviously, that's why they had to have all these polls or whatever of like how many donors were available, like how many donors you had, small donors you had in order to get to the debates. Mm-hmm. And then I forgot how many people were actually on the debates, which, well, one of the people that I'm totally going to do a whole episode on with universal basic income, Andrew Yang. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got to talk about him. Yeah, we do. And I actually I want to say read his book. I did not read it. I listened to his book, The Attack on Normal People or something like that. Yeah. I
haven't listened. I didn't know he had a book, so I'll listen to it. I love my Audible subscription.
Yeah, exactly. So I had a free credit. That's the only reason why I did it. I didn't actually pay money for it, which actually I did pay money for it if you think about it. But I like to feel like I didn't pay money for it, and I used the credit to get listen to his book. And that's a whole other episode. If you've watched or listened to or read his book or know anything about Andrew Yang, let us know in the comments and tell us what you think. Actually, we have our interim producer, Babe. Do you know anybody has making any comments on anything?
Yeah, I see from the Honest Jew. It says, 2 of my favorite gals, hi from New York.
Hey.
About the clip you guys were mentioning earlier, he said Fox News has looked at them.
Oh, about the diapers? Okay, I'm guessing it's about the diapers.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I don't know if we're going to be like toggling over to find Fox News right now. But I do encourage people who haven't seen that cringe to go watch it. It's only like 15 seconds. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it was like, what's your closing statement at the end of this debate? And that's what he said.
Just see that at the end. But there's other cringeworthy stuff about him too, though. Like the new thing was a tweet. Most of his tweets are the one that's cringeworthy. Mm-hmm. Another thing, did you see the poll that he put? That he said that would you rather like be a summer?
Yeah, he's what was it? Coffee down, guys. We got it. But yeah, he did. He sent out a poll that I'm sure he was expecting to prove that everybody agreed with him, but he just it was like 75-25 in the opposite direction, and it was something like I won't turn in my guns, or like I think kids should die, or something.
No, it was like no. Well, the no answer was no. Guns greater than kids. Of course, he puts it in that way.
Yeah.
And people were just like, I don't care how you're gonna phrase it because that's not how it is. But look, you're not gonna take our guns away. Again, like
at the end of the day, you're not gonna take our guns away. And it's not a dichotomy between I want to keep my firearms and I don't care about the lives of children. It's never been that. And as we've talked about many times, and we'll talk about later when we talk about the fourth wave, having a firearm is a very I don't know. It's the great equalizer. It's part of, in my opinion, what makes you a true feminist, actually.
Absolutely.
And it's really an anti-woman position to try to take all of our guns away. So, anyway, I could rant about Eric Swalwell forever because he's awful.
Yeah, I think we both could.
Are there any other questions from our new producer who's reading them to us?
Nope.
No questions at the moment.
Okay.
Brian Volk, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Brian Volk says, Antonia, congrats and congrats.
Oh, thanks. Wait, what's the other congrats for? You just want to say that you're going to...
Congrats and congrats.
Thank you.
I'll choose the top comments right now.
He's a good one.
Smiling a lot. He just says, I don't get it. Kids don't work out. No guns.
Okay. All right.
We appreciate your active involvement in the chat.
Yeah. And now you're back here, to be honest. I was afraid that we lost all of y'all because I was just like,
But both of us had a crazy month. We were in Dallas twice.
That is true. Yes.
And it was just crazy.
First time was Turning Point USA for the Young Women's Leadership Summit, which went great. And then a couple weeks later, we were back in Dallas. So I could get married, and Nina was there as well. So it was fun.
Thanks for not abandoning us. Thanks for coming back to the podcast.
Yeah.
The Honest Jew asks if you guys are touring.
Oh.
Touring? If you guys want to sponsor some touring, then
Nina, thank you for reminding us about being a patron on Patreon. If you want to help us get to the point where we are touring as a duo on purpose, not just like, hey, we're in Dallas, I'm in Dallas.
We're accidentally both in Dallas.
Or a wedding. We don't want to get married that many times in order to see each other, but
only the ones. Only the ones.
Yes.
But yeah, and actually, I've been working on this. I mean, it's been a busy month, like I said, but we're also we're going to set up a P.O. box for people who really hate Patreon. We're setting up a few other options, including a P.O. box if you want to send a check. And also, I've been learning the ways of the crypto, even though I'm much more of a gold person. But I'm going to set up a Bitcoin wallet for us, so that if you guys want to donate to us that way, you can still do that. And once Jordan Peterson's new website is up and going all the way, we'll definitely create an account on there.
Oh wait, is it a thing? Where it's like
it is a thing. Yeah. People gave him criticism about it because he said he won't remove anything unless he has a court order telling him to do it. So it's going to be like super ultra free speech. Some people think that's too extreme, but that means that we'll be safe on there.
Nice.
So you know what I mean? Like it'll be a safe place for us. So we're working on other ways to donate, but thank you so much for the patrons that we do have. We really appreciate you guys.
Yes, you guys are amazing.
And that money is going toward us doing some more projects with this. So
yeah, and with Empower 2A, which we appreciate with your support. The girls appreciate that. We're gonna have a lot more to talk about with that. Really exciting stuff coming up.
We've got a lot in the works.
Yes. So thank you for supporting women, especially. Well, speaking of that, especially thank you for supporting equality. Female empowerment. Apparently, though. This big Jezebel organization, this news organization, Jezebel. I'm sure you guys read it all the time. I'm sure you guys are just big, like
Jezebel
radical leftists, feminists. You guys reading Jezebel all the time. But Jezebel is like a slate, or I always get the other one as not the S2, but it's like ridiculous. But basically, just absolutely, completely left wing, just wacko type of crazy article. Where they talked about the new wave feminism, but talked about the gun girls, right? People who are in the Second Amendment industry who happen to be women.
Would they call us gun bunnies?
They called us gun buddies. Here's the actual title, though, because the title is the funny part. Because hold on again. No, get off. Okay, hold on.
But while Antonio's looking for that, I appreciate that while Jezebel was kind of trying to smear us, in effect, I appreciate the acknowledgement that there is a new wave of feminism.
Okay, can you guys see that? Probably not. Can you see it? No, you can't.
Oh, wait. There you go.
All right, so Gun Bunny.
Angle it more.
There you go. Gun Buddy Instagram influencers hide behind new wave feminism. Travis is trying to change it.
Yeah.
Sorry. So that's the title. Basically calling us gun bunnies. They had Dana Lash in there. They had Amy Robbins. We had our guests a few episodes ago from Alexa Athletica. They had Liberty Austin, and they had me. I'm sure they had other people too. Actually, the girl who was on that cover as well. I think her name is Kimberly. Sorry if I'm messing up her name. But basically, all these women, prominent women in the gun Second Amendment world. Amy is a TV host, a successful model, and an entrepreneur. Dana Lash, come on, it's Dana Lash, NRA spokesperson. Me, not going to my horn, but I mean, I'm not a gun bunny. We're not gun bunnies, and they put us in the same category as gun bunnies, just to show how if you're a radical feminist and if you're an anti-gunner, you will, go at any cost in order to degrade those who you don't think like, the people who are pro-gun like us, who think that empowerment doesn't mean that you disempower other people in order to gain empowerment. That really, basically, that gun rights are women's rights. That's something that is a big no-no for the radical left. So, it just shows their hypocrisy right there.
Right. And I mean, I kind of like the term gun bunny. Like, it's kind of cute. But I do think that they're trying to minimize what is actually a legitimate movement that's happening, which is that there's a lot of women who believe in female empowerment and who care about equality for women, but who think that third wave feminism is complete nonsense, because it is. So, we haven't really we haven't really ironed out all the kinks of what this fourth wave feminism is, but it is coming into being. And it's true that we quote unquote gun bunnies, so to speak, are kind of leading the way, because we see that the great equalizer is under attack, right? And so, and I think it might have been Amy Robbins who was talking to me, who said this, who was like, I never thought I would be someone who owned a gun, but now I see that they're coming for the guns, and now I have to, because if they take them away, then they're, yeah, I know, right? But if they take them away, then that's it. Like, we have to fight for this because it's our right to defend ourselves. Obviously against the tyrannical government. That's what the Second Amendment's about. But as women, it's our right to defend ourselves against the world, right? It's our right to defend ourselves against potential rapists, potential people who might want to assault us or do us harm of any kind, you know? And so I do think that it's kind of like the central nougat of the fourth wave is gun rights.
So for those who don't know about the different waves and they're like, what is this whole wave thing? So feminism, man, for those who study feminism, it's really not really encompassed in just waves. But what the official feminist scholars, have actually, made or compounded into like little certain waves, is that there are certain parts in the feminist movement. I would say starting from the women's suffrage movement,
that would be like the first wave.
The first wave, and then going on to what we have now, which is right now technically still the third wave, because that's what the radical leftists want us to believe is still the third wave.
And that's the most like if someone says I'm a feminist, you're going to assume that they're of
modern
the third
wave feminism.
Right. And then second wave feminism, like you're right, like first wave feminism was really about women's suffrage.
Getting the right to vote, for those who don't know that. It's
okay.
You don't know. We don't know who you are, so it's okay. If you don't know what it is, suffrage means the right. To gain the right to vote. Okay, so that's what the suffrage movement is about. It's if someone asks you in the street corner and puts a microphone to your microphone to your mouth and goes, "Hey, do you believe in women's suffrage?" And then you go, "Please don't go. No, I don't believe that women should suffer." Like,
yeah, no.
Now you know.
Please know what
you want
words
women's
mean.
Suffrage. Yes,
especially women's suffrage.
Yes.
And then the second wave really happened more during like the 60s, 70s with like the sexual liberation movement. And like movement. Like all like, oh, our bodies are free, all of that. And Camille Paglia is kind of from that era of feminism, where it's like we get to be just as crazy with our bodies as men are, sort of. Like that was kind of part of it. Like we're sexually liberated as women. And I actually think that movement was okay too, because it was those women who really fought against the idea that every woman has to be like a 50s housewife. And so I appreciate that they've kind of created more choices for women. Like they kind of brought women into the workplace and some other stuff like that. So I have some appreciation for the second wave, although they got a little.
The second wave is more of also, which there's definitely parts I agree with the second wave of the feminine mystique, like that book, like that was also part of like the 1960s, 1950s, like going against the grain of the typical housewife. Which even that I also understand like why a lot of like minorities and Black people say that they don't agree, like don't feel part of feminism because of that wave, because even reading the book and like what they're talking about, it seems very focused on like white woman in the house, because that was not the reality for a lot of other people who are not white. So I understand that aspect of things, but I also then the second part of the second wave is, unfortunately, they went too far with the whole reproductive rights of being pro-choice, being, abortion is a right for us. Like that was also encompassed. Like abortion
is part of women's health care.
Exactly. So that's where you get a lot of that narrative now, where I think a lot of conservatives, I'm sure a lot of conservatives at the time didn't agree with what they had before. But even now, I would say I don't agree with the second wave because of that reproductive rights really being /abortion rights movement that came along with that.
I'm with like first wave, I'm 100% on board. Second wave, I have like I'm 50-50 on it. Third wave,
you don't even have to be a woman, a born woman. To be honest.
Third wave feminism is that men are women too. Like,
you're the laughing
seriously, like it's like true. No, and not only that, but like, it's wrong for us to have anything that's for women only. Like, we can't. Like, that's the part that scares me the most about it, because I actually, as a libertarian, I actually don't mind if you want to change your body however you want. Like, if you're a transgender person, like, that's kind of up to you. Like, personally, I don't know. I would encourage you against anything that's like self-harm, in my opinion, which a lot of that stuff is. But the stuff that gets me is, you know, they've been pushing for like women's domestic shelters for like domestic abuse. Like, they want to let trans women in, and it's like that. There should be some places where we can say, as women, sorry, it's my phone going off, even though I thought it was on silent. Yeah, that's a feminist screaming at me.
Yeah.
But there should be some places where we can say, this is our woman-only space. And it's the same for men, too, just like with the Boy Scouts. You know, now girls can be Boy Scouts.
Oh, yeah.
And that's part of the fourth wave thing, too. I mean, fourth wave feminism is that's part of the third wave. Third wave feminism is essentially, there's no difference between the genders. And in my opinion, that means that feminism means nothing, because it's not about women anymore. So...
Are you getting emotional?
I don't know.
Well, you paused like it, so I was like, oh, she's.
I mean, it does make me kind of emotional because it makes me sad, because so many of these women really do care about women, and they think that they're fighting for us in this battle, but they're fighting against rights that matter so much for, like, to have the third wave be very anti-gun just says everything, because they don't understand that as women, we do have unique, like, biological characteristics, right? And that's why we do want to have the protection of a firearm, because me against a 300-pound dude, I don't care how much jujitsu I take. It's just, there's nothing I'm going to be able to do against a guy like that unless I have a firearm. And I'm sorry, I know I'm going on a rant, but
No, this is what we were talking about.
I was listening to a YouTube video about Annie Oakley the other day. And I love Annie Oakley because she was a feminist too. And she learned how to shoot a gun when she was 9 years old. And she went on to compete against all men, because she was the only woman who was competing in shooting competitions. And she kicked butt. Like, she was the best shooter pretty much in the West, especially for her age. She was so little. She was a teenager. And she said that, this is an Annie Oakley quote, she said that if women could handle firearms as well as they could handle a baby, most of our problems as women would be solved.
Nice. I love that quote. We should
make
an empowered quote.
Right?
We're going to make a t-shirt.
So, and it's true. We should be able to handle our children well, but we should know how to use a gun to protect ourselves. And that, she referred to it as the great equalizer too. So I love Annie Oakley. She's one of my new, like, favorite people. And I think that she's a good symbol of, like, what the fourth wave kind of is about.
Well, also, so I wasn't not happy 4th of July, but for those who had 4th of July or who celebrated, I hope you guys had a great holiday. But so my husband and I keep trying to say fiance, but my husband.
I know, she has to switch from fiance to husband.
Shout out to you, husband, who's like somewhere really, really far away, right?
And not at all our temporary producer.
Watching for the comments. I'm sure we have some. But we'll go to that. But so for 4th of July, we went to Wyoming, and it was, for those who don't know, Wyoming is actually the first state that allowed universal suffrage for women. So women were actually able to vote before statehood. Actually, they were able to vote, and that was actually one of the concessions that they had, is that they had to continue to allow people or women to vote in order to become part of the United States of America. And they also allowed women to be in public office as well before anybody else. And just being there and looking at the history, and we went to the Visitors Museum and got to see a lot of that stuff. And that's what I learned about that, or where I learned about that stuff. And it's just like a great testament of, and then you learn more about the West, and that even the women's suffrage movement, like a lot of it was predominantly going from the West and then went out. Like Texas was like one of the first southern states to get women's suffrage, and then kept going from there. New York was like actually one of the last ones. And so just that to say that a lot of the women's movement of equality and being able to do this, or reliance on and independence on themselves. I mean, the West was the epitome of that. And like with Annie Oakley and guns, like you had to, because it was the West.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say. A lot of like the Western housewives, they could use a gun. Okay, like they were, because they were wild animals and stuff. Like they're out west. Plus, if you're living out west like that, I mean, the only really kind of government authority that you had sort of were like the Pinkertons, kind of like before you had statehood and stuff. So you had to be able to defend your property too and keep your children safe out west. I mean, these women were rugged. They knew how to use guns. Like this is the women who are really leading a lot of the like feminist like the first wave of feminism. They knew how to use guns.
Right, and also even I was at DC and they had this "shall not be denied" exhibit at the Library of Congress. We got to see that, and it was so interesting also to see the fact of, you know, a lot of people also think that with this radical feminist movement now that tends to be very anti-God, especially Christian values. Actually looking into the history of the American movement and seeing the fact that, you know, a lot of the people who were part of suffragettes here, like Susan B. Anthony and etc., a lot of those same women who were they were abolitionists for one, so they didn't believe in slavery, and they actually fought to end slavery, and then they also were women's suffrage movement people as well. But then the next wave after that, or the next big push they had after that, was the Christian temperance movement, actually, and the temperance union actually was a big thing within the feminist movement.
Oh yeah, during Prohibition. Those were feminists.
Yeah, those were feminists because they were tired of their men coming home and, I mean, basically abusing the women.
Yeah, well, they said that the liquor was the reason why they were being abused by their husbands, and so we just need to get rid of the liquor. Right. Again, it's the same stupidity thing, right? It's like, we just need to get rid of the object.
I'm not saying that was a great thing, but just to say that people like to divorce the fact that Christian beliefs or Christian women were part of the feminism, but they were integral to, I mean, a lot of those beliefs, a lot of those values of, I mean, even the slavery aspect. It was really those who were really, I would say, really safe, who really had a changed heart to actually implement the fact that they believed that people were people, all people were equal,
and made in the image and likeness of God. Like that Christian underlying thing is really why slavery was abolished.
Right.
Anyway,
and it's the same type of people, so it makes sense. So really, that's why it's just like the feminism that we have today is not representative of really what the feminist movement began as.
And I actually don't think it's representative of many women.
Right.
At all.
Absolutely.
And before we take comments, I was just going to say a few other things, because we focused a lot on the gun aspect, but you touched on some stuff from the new wave, or at least that I think a lot of us in this new wave feel, which is that we actually like the fact that we can be mothers. We liked the fact, like, we like family generally, like we think that's a positive thing. And at least for me, I view the potential to be a mother as like the most powerful thing about me as a woman. Like the fact that we get to raise the next generation of humans is what makes us powerful. So instead of saying what makes us powerful is our ability to like abort our children, this movement is like what makes us powerful is our ability to have children. Because the children that we have are going to shape the future of the world.
Right.
And if we just keep denying we're taking away our own power by like getting rid of our own offspring. Like they don't understand how unempowering that is. Absolutely. It's like the absolute, it's like, oh, is this the one thing, like the really true thing that makes me different from men is that I can bear children? It's like, I'm just going to deny that. I'm going to say that makes me weak.
Right. Well, and when you said that, it made me realize like that's part of the agenda, right? Is that we're trying to erase the fact that we have any differences.
Right. And it goes
back to trying to be more like men. To be honest. Like it's like we're trying to make men more like women and then more women more like men and just be this, you know, completely genderless or sexless type of being. It's almost that's their perfect world.
Yeah, and I'd say that's like, I mean, I tweeted out stuff before, like here's my 5 planks of like feminism, of fourth wave feminism, but I'd say that's one of the third. It's like we don't deny biology. We just don't. We think biology is important to understand, and that men and women are complementary. You know, we're different, but we complement each other, and it's actually a good thing that we're different.
Right.
So, and I don't know if you agree with me, but these are like some of my thoughts. I don't agree with that point at all, girl. But I am curious. I mean, I don't know if you have another point, but I'm curious if the comments, like, if we're like freaking people out or like.
Yeah, what do you guys think?
This is the first time I'm not reading the comments live.
I know, it's true.
One of the people says dating pool a bit limited in New York to pro second 2A women. He was wondering how to break the ice when discussing guns.
Oh,
I mean, my first advice to you, and I know this is messed up, is leave New York. Like, I'm sorry. But at the same time, I'm sure the thing is that there actually are people, I'm sure that there's women in New York who care about their Second Amendment, but they're there for career reasons or because that's where their husband has a job or something, or that's where they grew up. I guess I would just be...
Is New York or New York City, though?
Yeah, like, is this guy in Manhattan? Because it would be hard to find, like, it's just so hard to even carry a gun. I don't think you even can carry a gun in Manhattan.
Yeah, it'd be really hard for you to get a handgun license.
But I would, if you're trying to broach the topic gently, I might say ask her how she feels, what she thinks about self-defense. Or, especially, she's in a big city, right? Like, you might ask her, what she does to try to protect herself, in the city. And if she doesn't have an answer to that, that's kind of an interesting...
Well, the thing is,
way to start a conversation about, well, do you ever feel unsafe walking at home? Because I care about you and I want you to be safe walking at home. That's why I ask, So it's just, there's ways to get to it where it's phrase it in her interests. Queens. I lived in Queens once.
It was Brooklyn before Brooklyn, right?
Queens is north of Brooklyn. Queens,
but I mean, meaning you know how Brooklyn's the gentrified place now, the up and coming place. Okay. Well, I think in general, you were talking about how to bring that up. I'm sure it's like being a Democrat in Texas or being a Republican in California. You're gonna have to do some digging to find someone who's gonna be open about that. I think that's even the Republicans I know from New York. It's just because it's a culture that has no guns. It's hard. They have the concept of it, but they don't really have the that makes sense because they don't have that ability. So it's almost like even the Republicans there are not very, from my experience, a lot of them not very pro-gun because it's not part of the culture.
And I think the key would be to kind of identify if they're ideologically possessed. And I say that so casually, but the girls who are super anti-gun, there's probably going to be some other indicators or other things that they say to you that would tip you off that they're going to be that particular brand of third wave. Because they might, personally, I didn't vote for Trump, but I can always tell if someone's crazy if within a few minutes of knowing them, they slip in some jab at Trump. Right? It's you can't even spend 5 minutes trying to get to know me or talk to me without taking a jab at our president. So it just shows where their head is. So think about, and how do they present themselves to you? Do they seem like they care about being feminine? I know that sounds bad, but
that's one of the planks though. One of the things.
Yeah. But I actually think you're much more likely to find a woman who is open to guns if she wears high heels, likes to wear dresses, cares about her nails. I know that sounds crazy, but the girls I know who are ultra feminists think that they want to dress like men, they do not like guns. I don't know. It's part of the fourth wave. Is we're re-embracing femininity as not a bad thing. So.
Dave, do we have any more questions?
I'm sorry.
Jomo G just actually responds saying you might as well go to Israel and get a wife.
What? Because they'll be more pro-gun?
They seem to, I guess.
I don't know about that.
I think that would be helpful to discuss. It says, first shot says, we had transgender training in the military and the women were actually more upset than the men.
Oh, about transgenders being in the military?
Transgender training.
To be honest, I mean...
That's a tough subject, It
is. Next comment.
Well, because I do feel if you want to serve your country and you can pass the tests, I don't know why you shouldn't.
I think it's more about the being uncomfortable. That other people are
being uncomfortable, and that's the kind of the other side.
You are a man,
and if to have that unit function the way that it really should, where it's because men get distracted if there's a woman around. if I don't know, I just feel there's a reason why they make platoons or whatever as all men, because there's no potential damsel in distress that's going to be like, oh, well, we're all worried about her, so like the mission has to be I don't know. I do kind of understand.
Next question.
I should let you decide when to ask.
We can have that topic.
I'm talking too much.
Yeah.
LJ81. Hi, ladies. Happy Monday, everyone.
Hi. Happy Monday to you.
Someone says, have you tried foreign born women?
What? But that doesn't mean that they're going to be... Okay, are you guys talking about you wanting more women who are more feminine or more women who are going to be
like
more pro-gun?
Okay with you having a gun? Or do you want them to have a gun?
Let me just... For you guys out there, I've seen this too many times, okay? I would want, if you're on a religious aspect, you should be marrying someone who has similar values to you. So, or else when 10 years down the line, you're like, oh, she's crazy because she doesn't care about so-and-so, well, or such and such. Like, what did you think? Just because she was hot, that everything was going to work out? Like, I see that so many times. Like, you need to marry someone or be with someone who has similar values to you. Otherwise, first of all, you're going to have kids one day, and you're going to have to eventually, like, actually tell them, hey, this is what the values that we're going to put on impart to you. But also, like, as a human being, a friend to a friend, you're going to have a lot of conflict because you guys don't agree on things that are important to you.
Just as your life partner.
Exactly. So don't, like, I implore you, please, look beyond the fact that that girl is hot or being feminine or whatever. At the end of the day, like, I see so many pro-gun guys who marry anti-gun girls. Like, and then you just, like, she won't let me go to the gun range. I don't understand.
And it's like you knew that was going to happen, dude.
Yeah.
But I also think, and I do think that finding, and I mean, it sounds like some of these gentlemen are looking for some, like, relationship advice, but I do think that finding out if you guys have the same values should happen from the beginning, too.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Like, first date crap. Like, you should be talking, not like, what are your values? But, you know, your conversation should at least let you know something about that. Like, don't just only talk about television. Like, talk about, like, what do you care about in life? Or, like, what do you, like, in 10 years, like, what do you want to be doing? You know, like this kind of stuff should matter.
Let's see how you act at the gun range. I'm not saying, like, they have to be someone who's been there and they've shot before. Like, a lot of women have not. I didn't. Like, I'm weird that I, like, asked, that the first question I asked was to Travis, like, I was getting dark, babe. Thanks, babe. He's like, it's the sunlight's going down.
This is why we need a producer.
Yeah, exactly. I would have been like, hold on a second. Like, you have to figure out early on, like, come on, if you're a gun guy, you should know that if you're a girl you're going to be with is a gun girl pretty early on.
Yeah.
Go to a gun range. Go talk about guns. Say you carry. How do they feel about that? I think that's actually a really good question. And you should be carrying anyways if you can.
Yeah, so, actually, that is kind of a good way to introduce it. If you carry a gun, like, tell her that you do and ask her if she's okay with it, because you're going to be doing that.
Yeah, you're going to find out real quickly.
Yeah, that'll clear it up if she's down or not.
And really, they should just be like, oh my gosh, absolutely. Thank you for caring about my protection.
Yeah, it's like, that means you can help keep me safe when we're out on a date.
And actually, no, you can carry because here's my gun, too. Then,
like, here's my revolver, you know?
You have a winner. So, yeah, is there anything else?
Free Pink MMA says, I'm in the tree of fraction arguments I'm not sure of.
Interesting. Okay, well, fair enough, dude. I'm not in the military, so I don't know.
And then in response to actually dating a girl and having a conversation with her, says, that's so hard, though.
What?
Just be yourself, dude. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie, and then you'll do fine.
Yeah. Actually, don't.
One more says, I was asking how to broach the subject to a neutral person.
Okay, about guns. I mean, that's the thing, is that there are a lot of girls, it could be in Texas too. Doesn't, just because they're in New York doesn't automatically mean they're anti-gun. Yeah. Just because they're in Texas doesn't mean they're, you know, pro-gun either.
That's true.
So, really, I just know in our experience with a lot of women, and especially a lot of young women, not sure how old you are, doesn't really matter, I guess. In general, if you would probably know if they're pro-gun. Like, being pro-gun is different than being neutral. So
right.
That, I feel like that's just like, you're going to know pretty early on, unless they're anomalies, which I think we would probably be anomalies. And the fact that you probably wouldn't just automatically assume that we're pro-gun, other than, like, you know, having hats. Like,
yeah. I mean, if you saw me walking down the street, that's part of the reason why I talked about like the whole high heels and like doing your nails and stuff. It's just because almost every woman I've met in the gun community like cares about that stuff. Like it's just kind of interesting. And seeing me walk down the street, I'm usually in a dress, I'm usually in 4-inch heels. Like I just have my little purse or whatever, but you wouldn't necessarily guess that there's a gun in there. So I guess I would just not make assumptions either about people. Talk to them.
Yeah, I was gonna say just talk to them. I feel like we're making this a lot more complicated than what it is. Just like
talk to them,
have a conversation. It will do you a lot of good for many other reasons than just knowing if she's pro-gun. Yeah,
but we do have other topics. So are there other comments, or because we can always move on to other stuff? We've got Black Ariel.
Okay.
Yeah, we should just talk about Black Ariel. Yeah,
we're almost at the 1 hour mark. But so Black Ariel, guys, I'm sure we're gonna be bringing it up. People have no idea what we're even talking about. I'm gonna look it up after we talk about this. But I kind of did a little mini video on my Instagram, seeing little rumblings about this. I already know. First of all, I've talked about this with the whole picture with Miley Cyrus. The whole like cake picture.
She has something else that's worse, but we don't have to talk about that right now.
And come out
she like wore like a red suit where she like showed off her lady bits, but like it had teeth. It was so disturbing. Sorry, guys, I'm like not okay.
It's like dinner time, and we didn't.
I'm sorry to make you refund your dinner with that.
So other than Miley Cyrus, there was this whole thing. So, and that thing was that I knew when that came out, when that picture came out of her eating, for those who don't know, who were like, she was like licking a cake, a picture of her licking a cake, and it says abortion is healthcare. And basically being really excited about that. So that went viral, and a lot of conservatives started talking about it and posting the picture. And I saw that. I only knew about it because there were other conservatives that I was following posting that picture to talk about it. Well, pretty positive. I mean, not many people need to know marketing that well to know that was probably part of their whole plan.
They knew it was going to trigger people.
Exactly. It's going to trigger the people like us where that's like a horrible thing for us, and it is a horrible thing. And we're going to then go ahead and spread that message by sharing her picture, which it did, and then facilitating a conversation. Well, I believe that's what's happening with this whole Black Ariel thing. For those who don't know, there's a live action movie coming out soon. I don't know how soon, but they cast this girl, Chloe and Haley. I don't know. The youngins are the ones who know this girl. She's one of a duo.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that is a singing group. But I think at least maybe it might be like the same girl, and she has like the same like. Yeah. Who knows these days?
But it's Disney's live action of The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, absolutely. And they basically cast a Black woman as Ariel. So now everybody's up in arms about it because you're not supposed to change Ariel. She's supposed to be redhead, and not only redhead, but she's supposed to be white, apparently.
But by the way, I'm pretty sure that they're keeping her hair red.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw a picture that I think is from the set and she looks gorgeous, by the way. She had really long red, like kind of dreads or like braids.
Okay.
And she looked like she was on a beach. So I'm pretty sure that was from the set. And she looked great. Like she looked like Ariel to me.
Right? I know. Anyway, so apparently, the whole thing is that I believe that they're trying to manufacture this whole thing that the conservatives are up in arms. They're upset that there's a Black Ariel because it's supposed to be a white Ariel. And I was just like, dude, guys, we have other things to do. We're not snowflakes. We're not the left where we just scrolling on Instagram and Twitter, just waiting for something to be upset and outraged about. As
we should be better.
We were better
and
than
libertarians. We got to be better.
Yeah, absolutely libertarians. That's no excuse for you guys.
I know we have no excuse to be outraged about that. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And the thing is, I don't really think that we're outraged. Even Daily Wire wrote an article saying that the left is trying to make this into a thing that saying that conservatives are upset about this Black Ariel. I haven't heard from any actual person that I actually look up to and respect someone saying something about this. I don't think people care.
But more so, instead of seeing people actually outraged, I've seen people defending the outrage and saying like, well, I mean, Eric, like the prince is like Danish, like she should be Danish. And it's But in my opinion, girl is a mermaid. She's underwater.
That's the whole thing.
She could be from anywhere. Like, she's not even exposed to, like, sunlight, really.
It's not real.
It's not real. Sorry, I shouldn't even get that into it, because the real answer is that it's a fictional story.
Right.
And I understood a little bit more so people being a little bit upset about Beauty and the Beast, because Beauty and the Beast was specifically set in, like, 17th century or 18th century France. And so they kind of, it's like that was one of those times where it's like, you guys are clearly doing this for the sake of virtue signaling to diversity and whatever. And
wait, did they change Beauty and the Beast? I thought she was white.
Oh, I mean, she was white, but, like, for example, a lot of her, like, she would have various people working for her in her castle that were black, or, like, a lot of the, like, they were, like, Asian.
Oh, I see.
And so it's like, in 17th century France, like, that's really not what was happening. Like, the story, like, that's really not what was happening. But even then, it's like, you shouldn't be outraged, though. Like, outrage isn't really the appropriate response to any of that. I mean, to me, the biggest issue with Beauty and the Beast was the costuming, because it was just awful. But I think that it's this, and I was talking to you about this before. It was like when they got so mad that the girl who played Jasmine in the real life remake of Aladdin was, like, part Middle Eastern and part British. It's like, let the leftists be the ones who are insane and upset about stuff like that. Like, they're going to be upset. And actually, there were people on the left who were upset about the black casting, not because she was black, but because an article about it from a different country used the word Negro instead. And so, but it was someone who was, like, not an English speaker natively.
But
and
was it Spanish? Well, actually, I've heard that they don't use Negro. Like, Negro is black in Spanish. Like, that's what Negro
I think is. It was from I think it was from maybe, like, an Asian country, and it had been translated badly. Okay. But people were upset about the headline saying, like, oh, look at it, they're trying to, like, smear this woman. It's like, this is someone who speaks English as a second language. So there was outrage on both sides, but it's like, just it's a little mermaid. She's a mermaid, man.
Yeah. All right, comments. Let's get it. What do you guys have to say about this? Uh-oh.
I know, are we in trouble?
Yeah.
The issue was, did they go in knowing that they wanted to cast her black, or was it she was actually the best audition?
That's what that person says the issues, like, if they were trying to just be like, we want a black character. But the thing is, casting is always about that.
Yeah, I was going to say,
casting always has an idea of exactly what they want before they cast someone. So maybe they did want somebody who was...
More often than not, it's actually not based on the best audition. It's based on, like, who the director kind of chose. Especially for a lead role, it's pretty rare that the audition was the determining factor. Usually they're like, we want this person to play this part. Let's see if we can get them. And then if they can't get them, then they might open up auditions or something. But, like, there's a lot of, I mean, we know how Hollywood works.
It's political.
Yeah, it's not just like the best audition gets the role, like, every time. Right. I wish it were like that. I mean, kind of. But.
Devin James said Cinderella should be black as well.
Okay. Wait, Cinderella has been black.
I know, Brandy was Cinderella,
Wait,
man.
The prince was Asian.
Yeah, it was a black Cinderella with an Asian prince. And that, what year did that? I know. I know Whitney Houston was the fairy godmother. Yeah. It was actually a good movie. But yeah, like, no one blinked an eye at that. It was like Brandy was Cinderella.
I don't know. That's why with all this, like, stuff now, I'm like, I wonder what did people think when other things, like when they had Black Annie.
Oh, that's right. They did have a Black Annie.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure they also had an uproar with that. There's always something, but I wouldn't even have heard of that. I think it was either a movie or Broadway where they cast a Black Annie, and I wouldn't have heard of them changing that unless there was an uproar about it. So it's always part of marketing for this stuff, and we just play into it. So, but yeah, there was actually a black Cinderella.
Yeah, they're definitely.
It's actually one of my favorite movies, and not just because I'm black.
I used to, like, it would come on TV, and I was like, oh,
Disney was so for it.
Impossible.
Right. I know.
It's a good movie.
Was it Whitney or was it somebody else? Oh, crap.
No, it was definitely Whitney Houston.
Okay, I was like,
yeah, she was the fairy godmother. And then Brandy sang with her, because she's a singer too. So they had, like, their whole thing going on.
With the box braids and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the guys are having a hard time talking about princesses, so they're asking what your favorite ammo is.
Oh no, what are they? Are you like trying to shield us from like something they're actually saying?
No, that's serious.
They're just talking about ammo.
They want to change the subject. Okay, we'll change the subject. What our favorite ammo is? I don't know. But if you're an ammo sponsor, you're looking. Okay.
Yeah.
We're always looking for someone to sponsor our content.
Because I don't have a specific preference. I kind of I'll buy not in terms of brands.
One that doesn't like create a stoppage.
And other than that, you're really more just asking me like what firearms I use. So
that's also true.
Yeah.
So this weekend, another life event that happened a week after a huge life event, getting married. I actually went out for the NRA certified firearm instructor course and exam, and I passed. Yay. So I am an official certified NRA firearm instructor. So that's what happened this weekend. But I say that because we used a 22 during this weekend. It was using, I think it was a Ruger, the Marksman or something like that. And it did not like the ammo that I had. And I'm not going to say what ammo I had, but let's just say
it wasn't firing
well.
Ammo's
really important, guys. It really is.
Yeah.
We should just talk about that too. But
And I'm learning with my new revolver that I have that I don't know. There's like how your trigger pulling mechanism is really important. And I had been so used to shooting, more of like a 1911 style pistol.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas the double action, the double action situation on there, especially with my hands, like I'm either going to have to get it modified or I'm going to have to really just keep firing it and get my index finger a little bit stronger. Because right now, like when I've gone to the range and fired it, my hand is like, ugh! Like it's just so intense. So, anyway, I am learning that revolvers are it's like a very different kind of gun to shoot. So, I don't know. Sorry, that's just my rant about what's going on with me and my gun right now. I need to take it in and see if they can make that trigger pull a little bit easier.
Can you modify the triggers on revolver?
You can. They can just only do so much because it's a double action. Like it'll always be a little bit tough because you're doing the hammer cock and the firing in the same action.
Yeah, it's meant to be.
Yeah, but it's.
Did you know that before you purchased it, or was it?
Just I did. I just hoped that it wouldn't be as bad. Just because I wanted a revolver, but I was worried about the hammer getting caught on things, especially if I'm going to conceal carry. I didn't want to pull it out and have the hammer get stuck on my belt or on like my dress or my purse or something. So I wanted it to be smooth around the edges, but I wanted to have a revolver. So, but I'm going to make it work.
Take note. There's so many things that, I was the only woman in my firearm instructor class. And it's just like, still, even though we're advancing, it's still really like it's slow. The change is slow, and I hope that eventually the women who are in the movement right now will be the leaders in like developing new firearms that better for women, or developing more things so we have more options. Because right now it's just hard because there are things like that like a guy just would not even think about because they're not wearing clothes like us. Like they're just not.
Yeah, it's like you lift up your shirt and you just grab it. But if it's inside of my purse, it could get caught on stuff or like
thigh holster.
Yeah, and also that's another thing. Like if anyone in the comments can, I've just been looking for a brand of thigh holster where I could carry my revolver because I really would like to carry it under dresses. But I don't know. It's really hard to find them. It seems like the ones that are online, I don't trust that they would be sturdy enough.
Have you tried the Dean Adams one?
See, but I don't don't even know that brand. Okay, See, this is what I'm saying.
Dean Adams. So, we'll look into that one. But yeah, that one's like it's almost like it's Spanx, like a Spanx holster with a pocket for the holster.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's a better idea. See, I just needed to ask Antonia.
I know.
Stupid.
See, guys, there are a lot of things we don't know about each other that we just.
Yeah, it's like I'm telling her about some revolvers. Just tell me about some other stuff.
All right. So we're definitely at the hour mark. But
did that please them?
Oh yeah.
Are they happy with that topic change?
Guns now. Right. See, I didn't put in everyone.
I know. I was like, there's got to be some people listening who care about Disney.
Right. But I think we're losing our light anyway, so it's very important for us to have light. Okay, we're just gonna say that. But thank you guys so much for joining us back. After like a month hiatus, we appreciate you guys being loyal to us. We're gonna have a really amazing guest next week. If you guys follow We the Female, we're gonna have her on. She has a great story. She's a domestic violence survivor who got into the gun world because she wanted to defend herself, and now has a nonprofit organization talking about feminism and empowerment and self-defense. So obviously that's a great fit, and she has a great story, and she's dynamic, and I'm really excited for you guys to listen to her and hear her story. So we're gonna have her on next Monday at 7 p.m. Mountain time. So make sure, and we say it to you guys as if you guys are the ones who don't come on time.
I know. Although we were pretty close today. I think we were at like 7:10.
I will say it that she was like, we can do 7:15, 7:20. They'll wait for us. Thank you guys for waiting for us. I know I'm like here on the bus. I'm sure
it's okay. It's okay.
But we would love for you guys to join us next week. We'll be here around this time. And make sure to tell other people about us as well. And
And if you want to be a patron, make sure to go to Patreon. We're Trigger Warning 2A podcast on there. And follow us on social media. We'll have it in the description below. But we love our Instagram and our Twitter. So follow us there.
Well, it was good to see you guys today on Trigger Warning 2A. I'm Antonia Okafor.
And I'm Nina Prevo. See you guys next week.
Yeah. See you later.